All right, we got the Joker here, and what's going to help the student a lot is dialing in values more. Their drawing isn't too bad. Like nothing's like extremely off. There are small things like, I look at this and I see like distance from the nose to the mouth. Theirs could definitely be a little bit longer. I think if they just move the mouth down a little bit, that would shorten the chin as well. But let's look at values. I'm going to put this in the black and white. This is going to be really helpful. So you can see in mine, there's just like a wider range of values. For instance, like up here, which should be the lightest part. That's how light they have it. Well, let me put it somewhere else. I'll put it right here. That's their lightest value. That's mine. See how much more lighter it is? Also, I feel like they don't have many dark values. Like over here on the side of the face, look how much darker my side of the face is. And pushing that darker, it's going to give the face more form. The face is a ball, and you got the shadowed side of the ball, and then you got like the brightest little highlight of the ball. And the more range of value you have, like the darker I push this shadowed side of the ball, like the more form the ball is going to have overall. And so that goes for the head overall, that goes for even the features. I mean, look at their nose, how little range of value there is in the nose. There's kind of like this kind of mid-tone, a little bit lighter. But in mine, I have a much wider range of values, which creates more form. Got that there. See, like this, dialing this in, getting this darker will make this lighter up here, make it look, lighter. Also, you look at the eyes, the whites of the eyes, look how bright they are. Look how dark mine are. And just dialing that in, it's going to set those eyes deeper into the eye sockets a lot more. Look down here at the chin, how much dark there is. Theirs was just all pretty one flat, bright value, but pushing those darker values. And so a helpful thing that you can do is you can, one, paint a portrait in black and white. That'll really help you kind of get a handle and develop an eye for values. That's really helpful. Another thing is when you're painting, even if you're doing this, like if you were doing this from a color reference photo, which they were, get a version, print out a version or put up a version of the photo in black and white. That way you can see how color translates into value, because that's kind of the main thing that's happening here, is developing that skill to look at a color and go, okay, I know what value that color is as well. Because there's going to be color shifts. Things are going to change color, but you also got to make sure that it's also shifting in the right value. So it can get tricky, and it's not a super easy thing to get a hold of. But if you practice it and you get it down, like understanding value and being able to have a good eye for value and dial in value relationships, meaning, to look at, my painting and say, okay, it's darker right here, and then it's lighter here. But how much lighter is it? It's a little bit lighter, but it's not, say, as bright as this. And the better you get at dialing those in as close as you can, the better your paintings are going to turn out. Getting better at values is going to help you way, way more than getting better at color. I always say, people always think they have a color problem when they really have a value problem. So for the student, I would really heavily focus on dialing in values and value relationships. All right, welcome to Paint Coach. If you're new to the channel, my name is Chris Fornatero, and what you just saw was a critique from a student that is in my apprentice level tier on Patreon. Now, I got some exciting news, which is I am currently opening back up that tier, but only for a limited number of spots. This is probably the most exclusive coaching service that I offer, which forces me to keep the amount of people in it relatively small. But there are a few spots opened up now, so I just wanted to let everybody know. Comes with a lot of benefits, but the best is probably the critique videos. Every month I select a handful of paintings submitted by students in the apprentice level tier to make these critique videos from. Now all patrons have access to the tutorials. I got like a library of, I think, a couple hundred painting tutorials of all different subjects, and I put a new one out every week, so you'll no longer have the problem of not knowing what to paint. And you also get access to the Paint Coach private Facebook group that right now has over 600 students in it learning just like you. It's a fun place where you can post your work, ask questions, and get advice. But now if you're in the apprentice level tier, you're also gonna get access to prep videos. This idea was actually given to me by a Patreon student who said he wanted to try and do the paintings without the tutorials. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea, because like any in-person class, the teacher sets up the still life or the model, or you're out painting a landscape and they talk about it first. They give you advice. They talk about things that might be difficult or how to handle certain problems that that subject will present. That's what the prep videos are. Quick videos where I prep you before going into the painting. They're pretty cool, and I'm going to show you one right now. Right, we got a landscape here, and I'm not going to talk that much about composition. If you would like to know how I decided to compose this for the painting, you should watch the tutorial, at least like the drawing part, because I explain it while I'm drawing, like why I did certain things and kind of how I blocked out the values. So yeah, check that out if you would like to know how I composed, because I did not paint this as it is. It was close, but not fully as it is. Now, the first thing, like when I look at this, I would like to break it down to levels. Like, there's this back level of trees here, and then this next level of trees, got some there. You could kind of just, well, this is what I ended up doing. I just kind of brought this level of trees and just kind of made some up over here. And then you got the house, and then this is like on its own level, and then you got all this up here. So always be breaking it down to levels and understanding where things are. Don't be afraid to take things out. I always say think about them as the trees like cardboard cutouts at first, and understand that you're gonna have to make this like a darker green, like probably a more saturated green than say the greens back here. Like look how much cooler this green is back here, and you can actually push those. Yeah, look how blue that is. That's going to be a lot different than say the shadows right there. So keep that in mind for trees, different levels of trees. Now when it comes to like a field like this, it's always helpful to think of the field like, I used to say for a long time, a pancake. Maybe a box. So there's like the top part of the box, which is getting hit with light. And then there's the sides that are not getting hit with as much light because they're not facing it. So I try and think of it like that. And so these are going to be darker. This is also just where like more of the flowers are and everything. So it's going to be lighter up top. And think of it that way. And if you watch the tutorial, I kind of block it out that way. And if you do that first, then you can come in and, make it look like flowers. You can, start cutting back, not making it so box-like, have, some lights go into darks go into lights. But the main thing I see a lot of people is they just don't get that structure, and this kind of just ends up looking very chaotic. And you can also come in and you know, start throwing other colors in there. And, you know, we got like a bunch of different flowers, a bunch of different colors. You know, got these pinks and reds, and, you know, a lot of it's just going to come down to kind of chopping it up and making it look like what it is. And, you know, there's also kind of the darkest darks down at the base. You know, you get some of those in, and before you know it, it's reading and looking how the way you want it. So if you struggle with fields like that, I do highly suggest taking a look at the video and seeing how I did all that. I also go over like greens, you know, and breaking it down like this grass, you know, opposed to the shadow and the light, and making sure to get those right. And, you know, there's just a lot of different variables, different kind of greens that are in there, and making sure to get those different greens in without knocking it out of the value that you want it to be. That's also very important. This is a really fun one. I'm going to put up my painting now, so if you don't want to see that, now it's time to click out of the video. All right, we have my painting here, and you can see how much I simplified this back area. You know, and I just have these trees, it's kind of like a wall back there. Really low contrast, difference between the shadow and the light is not that different. These are very cool. You can see kind of how like bluish purple, desaturated these are, how much of a light green that is, and then you come up a little further and it gets a little darker, a little more saturated. And also notice I did not go to pure white in this house. I did put a good amount of yellow ochre in there. It's really important. Another thing is edges. You see at the distance, this field, this edge, I made sure to like break it up and let the paint blend together and get a soft edge, because it's not a, you know, this field isn't a hard concrete object. You know, it's plants, and they're, you know, a bunch of little you know, flowers and plants and weeds and everything, so it's not solid, and that helps. You know, that soft edge is going to help portray that. You can see I got my box form for this field. You know, these sides significantly darker, top lighter. Also used a lot more horizontal strokes on top here. I did, you know, I blocked it out first with kind of this yellow, and then I went in there and put variations. And notice how I have more variations of like flowers and shapes in the foreground and the background. I made sure to have less as I went back. Also just softer edges, let that paint blend together. Like if I put in this pink flower, you can see I like let it blend in to the paint that was already there a little bit. I didn't do that as much up front because I want this to come forward and I want this to sit back. Same thing over here. A lot more brush work, a lot more clear shapes than back here as well. You can see in the grass here, a big thing was communicating this curve. You know, I felt like that was pretty cool, and doing that with how I drew these shadows in, and also my brush work. You know, I had a lot of side-to-side brush work. Also just keeping like the center here the brightest, and now getting a little darker as it goes down. Another thing that wasn't in the photo that well is this path, like these like tire tracks or whatever. And I really wanted to emphasize them. I thought they were pretty cool. And I just used like some burnt sienna and white for them in the sun. And in the shadow, it's one of the benefits of doing a lot of plein air painting is you pick up on things like, I know a lot of times like dirt in the shadows, it reflects a lot of the skylight, and that's how you get a lot of that blue there. And it looks pretty cool. So really fun painting. Really liked this one. Really liked the composition. Just, you know, this really interesting shadow shape that leads you to focal point of this house. It's a really fun one. But that's it for this video. It's time for you to go get painting. So if this apprenticeship level tier sounds like something you'd be interested in and you want more information, I'll put a link to where you can find all that in the description of this video. And again, remember, I got a limited number of spots. So if you're watching this a little later, the spots might all be filled up or the tier might be closed. So check it out as soon as you can. I'm Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting.